"Daddy, who is that man?" My 5-year-old son, Liam, looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. It was just a simple question, a question that should have meant nothing. But the moment those words left his lips, I felt the ground beneath me shift. I turned to him, my heart pounding. "What man?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. Liam hesitated, then whispered, "The man who kisses mommy when you're not home." My whole world shattered in an instant. Welcome to my nightmare. Before we dive into this heart-wrenching story, I just want to say a huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support helps bring more inspiring, dramatic, and emotional stories to life. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Our seemingly perfect marriage and family life. I always thought my marriage was unbreakable. Lauren and I had been together for 10 years, married for 7. We had a beautiful home in the suburbs, a 5-year-old son, Liam, who was the light of our lives, and a life that, at least from the outside, looked perfect. But looking back, I realize now that perfection was just an illusion, a glass house that was already cracking before I even noticed. It all started with one innocent question. It was a Saturday afternoon. Lauren was out running errands, and I was sitting on the couch, watching cartoons with Liam. He was curled up beside me, his little fingers playing with the edge of his blanket, his eyes glued to the TV. Then, out of nowhere, he looked up at me and said something that made my stomach drop. "Daddy, who is that man?" At first, I thought he was talking about the show we were watching. I glanced at the screen, confused. "What man, buddy?" I asked, ruffling his blonde hair. Liam's face scrunched up like he was trying to decide if he should say more. Finally, he whispered, "The man who kisses mommy when you're not home." The room went completely silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the TV, but I couldn't hear it anymore. My ears were ringing. I stared at my son, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. "What did you just say?" Liam looked nervous now, sensing something was wrong. He fidgeted with his blanket and shrugged. "I saw him. He was in the driveway with mommy. She told me not to tell you." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My whole body went cold, and my hands clenched into fists. I wanted to believe it was just a child's misunderstanding, but something deep inside me knew the truth. Lauren was hiding something, and I was about to find out what. I tried to brush it off, to tell myself that Liam was imagining things, that maybe he had seen a friend of Lauren's, or a delivery guy or something. Anything that wasn't what I feared. But once the thought was in my head, I couldn't get rid of it. That night, as I lay in bed next to Lauren, I found myself watching her closely. She was scrolling through her phone, her face illuminated by the dim glow of the screen. She didn't notice me staring. "Who are you texting?" I asked casually. She didn't even look up. "Just Sarah." Sarah was her best friend. At least that's what she said. I didn't push it, but the next day I started paying attention. Lauren had always been affectionate with me, always quick with a kiss, a smile, a soft touch. But lately something had changed. She had become distant. Small things at first, things I had ignored. She barely kissed me goodbye in the mornings anymore. She never looked me in the eyes when she said, "I love you." She spent more time on her phone than talking to me. And then there were the late nights. Lauren was a stay-at-home mom, so she had no reason to be out late. But suddenly, she had excuses. Book club meetings that ran too long. Last-minute grocery store trips. A friend who needed to talk. At first, I believed her. But then I noticed something else. Her phone was always face down. Whenever I walked into a room, she would quickly put it away. And one night, as she was getting ready for bed, I saw a faint red mark on her collarbone. A mark that I hadn't put there. That was the moment I knew. My wife was cheating on me. I didn't say anything right away. I needed proof. I needed to know who he was, how long this had been going on, and how deep the betrayal ran. I started watching her more closely. When she said she was going to the grocery store, I checked the car mileage. It didn't add up. When she went out with friends, I called her friends later. None of them had seen her that night. I was spiraling, drowning in suspicion and anger, but I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I took my son's innocent words as the first clue in a puzzle I never wanted to solve. And the deeper I dug, the worse it got. Because what I found next, it was so much worse than I ever could have imagined. Couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, my heart pounding against my ribs like a war drum. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lauren in the arms of another man. Kissing him, whispering to him, loving him the way she used to love me. I had no proof yet, just a gut feeling and the innocent words of my son. But that was enough. I had to know the truth. So I did what any betrayed man would do. I became a ghost in my own home. I watched, I listened, I waited, and what I found shattered me. The next morning I played it cool. I kissed Lauren on the cheek before leaving for work, just like I always did. But instead of going to the office, I parked my car a few blocks away and walked back home. I hid in the backyard, crouched behind the bushes, my hands trembling. I felt like a stranger in my own life, like some pathetic man spying on his wife because he was too afraid to confront her. But when I saw his car pull up in my driveway, all that fear turned into rage. A sleek black BMW, tinted windows, car I had never seen before. Lauren stepped outside, dressed nicer than she ever did for me. Tight jeans, a blouse that clung to her body, her hair styled perfectly. She looked like she was going on a date. And then he stepped out of the car. Tall, well-dressed, younger than me, maybe mid-30s. And when she smiled at him, it was a smile I hadn't seen in years. My stomach twisted. Lauren glanced over her shoulder, checking to see if anyone was watching. Then, she kissed him, full on the lips. I nearly lost it right then and there. My hands balled into fists, my body vibrating with anger. But I forced myself to stay put. Not yet, because what she did next, it was even worse. They didn't go inside. That would have been too easy. No, they got back in his car and drove off just like that. I jumped into my own car and followed them. I expected them to go to a hotel, a house, some secret love nest where they could do whatever the hell they had been doing behind my back. But instead, they pulled into a restaurant. Fancy one. The kind Lauren and I used to go to before life got in the way. And for the next 2 hours, I sat outside, watching them through the window, while my wife laughed, flirted, touched this man like he was her whole world, like I didn't even exist. I wanted to burst inside and smash his face into the table. I wanted to scream at Lauren, demand answers, ask her how the hell she could betray me like this. But I didn't, because I needed to know everything before I made my move. That night, Lauren came home late. I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. I heard her in the bathroom, humming to herself, probably replaying her perfect little date in her head. And then, I did something I never thought I would do. I went through her phone. She had always been careful, always deleting messages, locking her screen, keeping her phone glued to her hand like it was a lifeline. But tonight, she made a mistake. She left it on the nightstand, unlocked. And what I saw changed everything. Text messages. Lauren, I miss you already. Him, I'll see you soon, baby. He still doesn't suspect anything? Lauren, not a clue. He's so busy with work, he barely notices me anymore. Him good. I don't want anything ruining what we have. Lauren, me neither. You make me feel alive again. I put the phone down. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred. She had been lying to me for God knows how long. Pretending. Smiling. Kissing me goodnight while another man's hands were all over her. And the worst part? She thought I was too blind to see it. Couldn't breathe. My chest was tight. My fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to wake her up. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that I knew everything, that our marriage was a lie. But I didn't. Instead, I rolled over, staring at the ceiling, the weight of betrayal crushing me. This wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't a one-time thing. Lauren had a whole other life behind my back. A life where I was nothing more than a paycheck, a background character in her perfect little affair. And I knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. Because if she had been lying to me about this, what else had she been hiding? I had spent the entire night lying next to my wife, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe peacefully while I drowned in the storm of her betrayal. By morning, my anger had settled into something sharper, colder, a blade waiting to cut. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to destroy every lie she ever told me. Lauren woke up like nothing had changed. She kissed me on the cheek, humming as she got ready for the day. And I let her. I watched as she slipped into a tight red dress, the same one she used to wear for me, back when we were still us. I watched as she checked her phone, a small smirk tugging at her lips, probably reading his message. And when she turned to me, smiling like she wasn't stabbing me in the back, I smiled right back. "Big plans today?" I asked casually, sipping my coffee. She hesitated, but only for a second. "Just running errands. Maybe lunch with Sarah." Perfect lie. Because Sarah? She had moved to another state last year. But I didn't call her out on it. Instead, I kissed her on the forehead. "Have fun." And just like that, she left, walking out the door, straight into his arms. I followed her. Again. But this time I wasn't hiding. This time I was hunting. She drove straight to his house. A nice place. Big. Probably paid for by some job that didn't involve sneaking around with another man's wife. I parked across the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. She didn't even hesitate. She walked right up to his door, knocked twice, and the second it opened, she was in his arms, kissing him, laughing, running her fingers through his hair like she used to do to me, like I never even existed. My vision blurred. My ears rang. But I didn't storm in. Not yet. Because I had one last move to make. I pulled out my phone. And I started recording. I waited. I let them have their little fantasy. Let them pretend they weren't about to be exposed. Then I walked up to the house. I knocked. I heard them whispering inside, the frantic shuffle of footsteps. And when the door finally opened, Lauren's face drained of all color. She stammered, "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I just held up my phone and pressed play. Her laughter, their whispers, the sound of their lips meeting. The color returned to her face. But this time, it was bright red. Caught, trapped, exposed. Her lover, the man who stole my wife right under my nose, had the nerve to step forward. "Look, man, I think we should talk about this." I punched him in the face. He stumbled back, clutching his jaw, eyes wide with shock. Lauren screamed, grabbing my arm. "Brandon, stop." I shook her off. "Don't touch me," I said, my voice like ice. "Don't ever touch me again." She tried to explain, tried to say it wasn't what it looked like, that she never meant to hurt me, that she still loved me. But I just laughed. "You love me," I repeated, stepping closer until she had to look me in the eye. "Then tell me something, Lauren." I pulled up the messages on her phone, the ones she thought I didn't know about. "How long have you been feeling alive again with him?" Her breath hitched. Silence. I shook my head. "That's what I thought." I turned to leave, but then I stopped. "One last thing." I handed her my phone, the one still playing the video. "Make sure you delete it," I said coldly, "because the next time I show it to someone." I looked at her lover, the man who was still clutching his bloody nose like a coward. "It'll be your family, your friends, your parents." Lauren gasped. "You wouldn't." I smirked. "Try me." Then, without another word, I walked out, and I never looked back. I walked out of that house with my heart pounding like a war drum. The cold morning air hit my face, but nothing could cool the fire burning inside me. Behind me, I heard the door slam shut. I knew Lauren wouldn't follow me. Not yet. She was still inside, probably panicking, shaking, whispering to her lover about what to do next. But it was too late. I had all the power now. The second I got home, I sent the video to myself, backed it up in 3 different places, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Lauren came home an hour later. I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, watching the video again, watching her betray me, watching her smile in his arms. She hesitated in the doorway, gripping the strap of her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Brandon, can we talk?" I hit pause. Then I looked up at her. She had been crying. "Good. You want to talk?" I said, my voice eerily calm. "Fine. Let's talk." She sat down across from me, hands trembling in her lap. I made a mistake. A mistake." I chuckled, shaking my head. "No, Lauren. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This was a choice." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you," I snapped. "Don't you dare say that." I slammed my hand on the coffee table, making her flinch. "You didn't just hurt me, Lauren. You destroyed me. You shattered everything we built together like it meant nothing." Her lower lip trembled. "I still love you, Brandon." I let out a hollow laugh. "Love me? That's funny. Because last I checked, love doesn't involve sneaking around with another man in his bed." She wiped at her tears, but I wasn't finished. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me, Lauren, did you think about me when he touched you?" Her breath hitched. Silence. She couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. And that was when I made my decision. I stood up and walked to our bedroom. Lauren followed, her footsteps hesitant. "Brandon, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I grabbed a duffel bag and started throwing my clothes into it. "Stop!" she cried, rushing to my side. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling." I zipped the bag shut and turned to her. "There's no fixing this, Lauren." I stepped past her, walking back to the living room. She chased after me, sobbing now. "Please," she whispered, grabbing my arm. "Please don't leave me." I looked down at her hand. This same hand had touched another man, had held him, had pulled him closer while pushing me away. I yanked my arm free. "You already lost me," I said coldly. Then I walked out the door. And this time I knew I was never coming back. I drove with no destination, my mind spiraling into a dark abyss. My hands were gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, but I barely felt anything. Numb, hollow, dead inside. Lauren's face haunted me. The way her lips trembled, the way she whispered, "Please don't leave me." But I wasn't the one who left first. She had left me long before I walked out that door. I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. The air reeked of cigarettes and stale beer. The walls were peeling, and the bed creaked with every move. It was disgusting, fitting. I collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. "Lauren." I ignored it. Then another buzz, and another, and then a message from an unknown number. Curious, I clicked on it. "Unknown number. Brandon, I need to talk to you. It's important." My chest tightened. I stared at the screen. Then a second message popped up. "Unknown number. You deserve the truth about Lauren." I shot up in bed, my heart pounding. Who the hell was this? With shaky fingers, I typed back. "Who is this?" No answer. I called the number, straight to voicemail. I clenched my jaw. My blood was boiling now. The truth about Lauren? What more could there be? I already knew she had betrayed me. What else was there? Then my phone buzzed again. Picture message. I clicked on it. And that was when my entire world collapsed. The image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. At first, all I saw was a dimly lit hotel room. Then a bed. A very familiar bed. Then, Lauren. Lauren, sitting on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a white sheet, her bare shoulders visible. She wasn't alone. My stomach dropped as I recognized the other person in the photo. It wasn't just some random man. It was my best friend, Jordan, the man I trusted more than anyone. The man who had been there for me through everything. My brother in all but blood. My vision blurred with rage. This wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy against me. Lauren hadn't just betrayed me. She had mocked me, lied to me, destroyed me. And Jordan? He had waited, plotted, stolen everything from me behind my back. A rage unlike anything I had ever felt erupted inside me. I threw my phone against the wall, shattering it into pieces. But no amount of destruction could undo what I had seen. Lauren and Jordan, together. How long had it been going on? Was I the fool this entire time? Had my whole marriage been a joke? I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My body buzzed with adrenaline, my mind racing with images of betrayal. And then a realization hit me. Jordan had been the one to warn me about Lauren's infidelity. He wanted me to find out. He wanted me to leave her, because he wanted her for himself. A cold, bitter laugh escaped my lips. I had played right into his hands. Not anymore. I grabbed my car keys. It was time to face them both. I arrived at Jordan's house just before sunrise. His car was parked in the driveway. Lauren's car was there too. I should have been shocked. But at this point, nothing surprised me anymore. I rang the doorbell, my heart pounding. No answer. I rang again, harder. Then, footsteps. The door cracked open and there he was. Jordan, shirtless, his hair messy, like he had just rolled out of bed. Brandon! His voice was hoarse. And then, behind him, Lauren appeared, wearing his shirt. My fists clenched. A slow, twisted grin spread across Jordan's face. Didn't expect to see you here, buddy. I lost it. Before I even realized what I was doing, my fist collided with his jaw. He stumbled back, groaning in pain. Lauren screamed, "Brandon, stop!" But I wasn't finished. I grabbed him by the collar, Chovy. I shook my head, stepping away. You two deserve each other. And with that, I walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could still hear them. Lauren sobbing, Jordan cursing under his breath. But their voices didn't matter anymore. I got in my car and drove off. The sun rising over the horizon. A new day, a new beginning. And for the first time in years, I was free.